There was a time in my life when I felt completely alone. No friends to call, no job to give me purpose, no love to warm my heart. I stood at my window one morning watching people rush by on the street below, each person connected to someone or something except me. Boy, the weight of isolation pressed down on my shoulders like a heavy blanket I couldn't shake off. And you know what? That moment of complete solitude became the greatest gift I've ever received. Many of you sitting here today are carrying that same weight. You're wondering why doors keep closing, why phones stay silent, why hearts remain distant. You're questioning your worth, your path, your very existence. I see that pain in your eyes because I've lived it. And I'm here to tell you something that might sound impossible right now. Your emptiness is not your enemy. It's your gateway to profound. We live in a world obsessed with connections. Social media feeds bombard us with images of perfect friendships, dream jobs, and fairy tale romances. Society has convinced us that our value is measured by the number of likes we receive, the title on our business card, or the ring on our finger. And when we find ourselves without these external validations, we feel like failures. But let me ask you this. Have you ever considered that this moment of perceived failure might actually be your moment of greatest freedom? Think about a tree in winter. Stripped bare of its leaves, standing alone against the cold wind. Most people see it as lifeless, abandoned, a shadow of its summer glory. But beneath that apparent emptiness, deep in its roots and core, the tree is gathering strength. It's in this period of solitude that it builds the foundation for its most magnificent blooming. You see, rejection and solitude aren't punishments. They're invitations. Invitations to finally hear your own voice above the noise of others' expectations. When you have no friends telling you who you should be, no job defining your worth, no relationship determining your happiness, that's when you have the rare opportunity to discover who you truly are. I remember sitting in my empty apartment, surrounded by the echoing silence of unemployment. My phone hadn't rung in weeks. My dating profile gathered digital dust. Society would call this rock bottom. But in that stillness, I began to hear something I'd never heard before. The quiet wisdom of my own heart. This is where true transformation begins. Not in the crowded spaces of social approval, but in the sacred solitude of self-discovery. When everything external falls away, we're forced to face the one relationship we've been avoiding our entire lives, the relationship with ourselves. You might be thinking that's all well and good, but how do I pay my bills with self-discovery? How do I warm my bed with inner peace? These are valid questions. I'm not suggesting we should embrace isolation forever or reject human connection. What I am suggesting is that we learn to find our center of gravity within ourselves first. Every great spiritual teacher, every transformative leader, every person who has ever made a lasting impact on the world went through periods of profound solitude. They faced rejection, endured loneliness, and wrestled with emptiness. But instead of running from these experiences, they leaned into them. They understood that solitude is the cocoon where transformation happens. The problem isn't that you're alone right now. The problem is that you've been taught to see aloneness as a problem. You've been conditioned to believe that external achievements and relationships are the only path to fulfillment. But what if the opposite is true? What if this period of your life isn't a detour from your path, but the path itself? When we have no friends, we have the opportunity to become our own best friend. When we have no job, we have the space to discover our true calling, not just chase the next paycheck. When we have no love, we have the chance to develop the most important love of all, self-love. This isn't about positive thinking or denying your pain. The ache of loneliness is real. The stress of unemployment is real. The hunger for love is real. I honor these feelings because I felt them too. But what if these very feelings are trying to guide you home to yourself? Look at your hands for a moment, these hands that might feel empty right now. But have you noticed how emptiness creates space for something new? A cup must be empty before it can be filled. A canvas must be blank before it can hold. Your current situation isn't a punishment. It's preparation. I've seen it countless times. People who embrace their solitude instead of fighting it begin to change in remarkable ways. Their presence becomes magnetic. Their purpose becomes clear. Their peace becomes unshakable. Not because they've filled all the empty spaces in their lives, but because they've learned to be fulfilled by their own presence. This is the paradox of finding peace in rejection and solitude. When you truly accept being alone, you begin to attract authentic connections. When you find purpose in unemployment, meaningful work finds you. When you fall in love with your own company, genuine love often follows. Not because you're chasing these things, but because you no longer need them to feel complete. Think of it like learning to swim. When you panic and thrash against the water, you sink. But when you relax and trust the water to hold you, you float effortlessly. The same principle applies to your current situation. Stop fighting against your solitude. Stop resisting your apparent emptiness. Instead, lean back into it. Trust it. Let it teach you. Let me share something powerful with you. During my deepest period of solitude, I discovered that the world had been teaching me the wrong lesson all along. We're told that loneliness is a sign of failure, that rejection means we're not good enough, that being alone means something is wrong with us. But what if loneliness is actually a sign that we're ready for a deeper connection with ourselves? You see, most people spend their entire lives running from solitude. They fill every moment with noise, every space with people, every silence with distraction. They're so afraid of being alone that they never discover the treasure that solitude holds. But you've been chosen for a different path. When you've lost external connections, you're forced to develop internal strengths. When you've lost your job, you're pushed to question what truly gives your life meaning. When you've lost love, you're guided to discover a love that can never be taken away, the love you have for yourself. Think about the ocean for a moment. On the surface, waves crash and storms rage. But dive deep enough, and you'll find absolute stillness. Your life right now might feel like those turbulent surface waters, full of rejection, loss, and loneliness. But I'm inviting you to dive deeper, because it's in the depths of solitude that you'll find unshakable. The truth is, peace isn't the absence of loneliness. It's the presence of self-acceptance. It's not about having all the right connections. It's about having the right connection with yourself. When you understand this, everything changes. Rejection stops being personal and starts being directional, pointing you toward your authentic path. I've watched people transform their lives, not by fighting against solitude, but by embracing it as their teacher. One person discovered their artistic talents only after losing their corporate job. Another found their calling as a writer during months of social isolation. Yet another built a deeper relationship with their children after going through a divorce. These weren't coincidences. They were revelations made possible by solitude. Here's what most people don't understand about rejection. It's not a closed door. It's a compass. Every no you receive is pointing you toward your ultimate yes. Every person who walks away is making space for those who are meant to walk beside you. Every job that doesn't work out is clearing the path for work that aligns with your soul's purpose. But to see this truth, you must first make peace with where you are right now. Stop treating your solitude like a problem to be solved. Stop seeing your unemployment as a period to be endured. Stop viewing your single status as a condition to be cured. Instead, treat this time as sacred space, a temple of transformation. Let me tell you what happens when you embrace solitude instead of fighting it. Your energy changes. Your presence shifts. You stop being a person desperately seeking validation and become someone radiating authentic power. And here's the miraculous part. This is when real connections begin to form. Because authentic relationships aren't built on need. They're built on wholeness meeting wholeness. True friendship isn't about filling an emptiness. It's about sharing your completeness. Meaningful work isn't about proving your worth. The peace you're seeking isn't found in perfect circumstances. It's found in your perfect acceptance of whatever circumstances you're in. This doesn't mean you stop growing or pursuing your dreams. It means you stop pursuing them from a place of lack and start pursuing them from a place of wholeness. Consider the butterfly. In its cocoon, it doesn't know it's becoming a butterfly. It feels like it's dissolving, falling apart, losing everything it once was. Sound familiar? But this dissolution is necessary for transformation. Your current solitude is your cocoon. Your rejection is your protection. Your emptiness. What if you started treating your alone time as a gift? What if you approached each day of unemployment as an opportunity to discover your true calling? What if you saw your single status not as a waiting period, but as a sacred time of self-discovery? This is where real power lies. Not in controlling your circumstances, but in transforming your relationship with them. Not in filling all the empty spaces, but in finding the fullness that already exists within you. I want you to try something with me right now. Close your eyes for a moment. Feel the weight of your loneliness, your rejection, your perceived failures. Don't push these feelings away. Don't try to change them. Just hold them gently, like you would hold a crying child. This tender acceptance of what is, this is the beginning of peace. Now imagine that all your external supports have been removed, not to punish you, but to reveal your internal strength. Imagine that every rejection you've faced has been redirecting you toward your authentic path. Imagine that your solitude is an empty space. It's sacred space. You see, the world teaches us to measure our worth by our connections, our success by our achievements, our value by our relationships. But what if the opposite is true? What if your worth is most visible when you stand alone? What if your success is measured not by what you achieve, but by who you become? What if your value is most evident not in your relationships with others, but in your relationship with yourself? It's a profound truth that solitude reveals. You are not broken because you're alone. You're not failing because you're between jobs. You are not unlovable because you're single. You are in a sacred space of transformation, and everything you think you've lost is actually clearing the way for what's truly meant for you. There's a powerful shift that happens when you stop seeing your solitude as a punishment and start seeing it as a privilege. When you have no external distractions, no obligations to others, no roles to play. You have the rare opportunity to hear your own truth. Are you ready to listen? Most of us are so uncomfortable with silence that we'll do anything to avoid it. We'll stay in unfulfilling jobs because we're afraid of the empty space unemployment might bring. We'll maintain surface-level friendships because we're scared of being alone. We'll jump from relationship to relationship because we can't bear our own company. But what if silence isn't your enemy? What if it's your greatest teacher? Let me share something profound with you. The universe has a perfect accounting system. Nothing is ever truly lost. It's only transformed. When you lose external connections, you gain internal clarity. When you lose a job, you gain freedom to redefine your path. When you lose love, you gain the capacity to love yourself more deeply. But to access these gifts, you must be willing to sit in the discomfort of transition. You must be brave enough to face yourself without distraction. You must be patient enough to let your new life take root. Think of yourself as a garden. When a garden looks empty, it's not dead. It's preparing. Beneath the surface, seeds are gathering strength, roots are growing deeper, new life is taking form. Your period of solitude is your spiritual winter. It's not a time of death, but of essential preparation. I want to share with you 3 fundamental truths that transform my understanding of solitude and rejection. These aren't just ideas to think about, they're wisdom to live by. The first truth, your worth is not determined by external validation. Society has programmed us to believe that our value comes from our relationships, our job title, our social status, but these are all temporary conditions. Your true worth is like gravity. It exists whether anyone acknowledges it or not. It doesn't increase with success or decrease with failure. It's constant, unchanging, and completely independent of external circumstances. When you truly understand this, rejection loses its sting. Being turned down for a job doesn't diminish your value. Being left by a partner doesn't reduce your lovability. Being alone doesn't make you less worthy. These experiences simply reveal where you've been putting your sense of worth and invite you to reclaim it. Solitude is not the absence of connection. It's a different form of connection. When you're alone, you're not disconnected from life. You're connected to it in a deeper way. You begin to notice things you missed before, the way sunlight plays on your wall in the morning, the rhythm of your own breathing, the subtle whispers of your intuition that were previously drowned out by noise. This deeper connection isn't just poetic imagery. It's practical power. When you're truly connected to yourself, you make better decisions. You attract authentic opportunities. You recognize genuine connections when they appear. But this can only happen when you stop treating solitude like a disease and start treating it like a doorway. Rejection is not a statement about your value. It's a statement about alignment. When something or someone rejects you, They're not judging your worth. They're acknowledging a misalignment. This is actually a gift, though it rarely feels like one in the moment. Every rejection is protecting you from investing more time and energy in the wrong direction. How many times has a seeming rejection led you to something better? That job you didn't get that freed you to find your true calling. That relationship that ended that allowed you to meet your true love. That friendship that faded that made space for more authentic connections. The problem isn't rejection. It's our relationship with rejection. We take it personally when we should take it directionally. We see it as an ending when we should see it as a beginning. We treat it as a punishment when we should treat it as protection. Now, I want to talk about something that might sound counterintuitive, the power of embracing your emptiness. Most people try to fill their empty spaces as quickly as possible. They jump into new relationships before healing from old ones. They take any job just to avoid unemployment. They surround themselves with surface-level connections to avoid feeling alone. But what if emptiness serves a purpose? What if, like the empty space in a cup, it's what makes you useful? What if, like the silence between musical notes, it's what makes your life symphony beautiful? When you embrace emptiness instead of running from it, something miraculous happens. You start to understand that emptiness isn't a void to be filled. It's a space to be used. It's not an absence of something. It's the presence of possibility. This understanding changes everything. Suddenly, being alone isn't a condition to be cured. It's an opportunity to be seized. Being between jobs isn't a gap to be bridged. It's a gift to be unwrapped. Being single isn't a problem to be solved. It's a freedom to be explored. But here's the kick. You must be willing to sit with your emptiness long enough to understand its purpose. Most people rush to fill their empty spaces because they're uncomfortable with the uncertainty, the silence, the apparent void. But those who have the courage to wait to watch, to wonder, they're the ones who discover the true gifts of solitude. Let's talk about something that might challenge everything you've been taught about success and fulfillment. We've been conditioned to believe that the path to peace lies in accumulation. More friends, better jobs, stronger relationships. But what if the opposite is true? What if the path to peace lies in surrender? Letting go of who you think you should be to discover who you truly are. This is where the real magic of solitude begins. When you have no roles to play, no expectations to meet, no image to maintain, you're free to be authentically yourself. This authenticity is what creates genuine magnetism in your life. Not the kind that draws everyone to you, but the kind that draws the right people, the right opportunities, the right experiences. But to access this power, you must first master the art of being alone. Not just physically alone, but emotionally self-contained. This doesn't mean you don't need or want connections. It means you're no longer dependent on them for your sense of wholeness. Think about water for a moment. When water is turbulent, it reflects nothing clearly. But when it's still, it reflects everything perfectly. Your mind is the same way. When you're constantly chasing external validation, your inner wisdom is clouded. But in the stillness of solitude, everything becomes clear. This clarity is what helps you recognize the difference between loneliness and aloneness. Loneliness is a feeling of lack, a hungry ghost that can never be satisfied by external connections. Aloneness is a state of completeness, a deep recognition of your own sufficiency. The transformation from loneliness to aloneness is one of the most powerful journeys you can undertake. It's not about becoming cold or distant. It's about becoming so complete in yourself that your connections with others come from choice rather than need. This brings us to a crucial understanding. The quality of your life is not determined by how many people you know, but by how deeply you know yourself. It's not measured by your professional achievements, but by your inner peace. It's not reflected in your relationship status, but in your relationship with yourself. When you truly grasp this, everything changes. Rejection stops being rejection and becomes redirection. Unemployment stops being unemployment and becomes unleashing. Solitude stops being solitude and becomes sovereignty. But let me be clear, this isn't about positive thinking or denial of pain. The ache of rejection is real. The stress of unemployment is real. The longing for connection is real. Don't deny these feelings. transform them. Use them as fuel for your growth, as indicators of where you need to develop greater inner strength, is a profound truth that few people understand. Your current situation is not happening to you. It's happening for you. Every closed door, every silent phone, every empty space is conspiring to help you discover something essential about yourself. Think about the greatest scientific discoveries, the most profound works of art, the most transformative spiritual insights. Where did they come from? Not from the noise of social connection, but from the depth of solitude. Not from external validation, but from internal exploration. You're not just going through a difficult period. You're going through an initiation into a deeper understanding of who you are, what you're capable of, and what you're here to contribute to the world. But you must stop waiting for your circumstances to change before you allow yourself to be at peace. Peace isn't found in perfect conditions. It's found in perfect acceptance of whatever conditions exist. This doesn't mean you become passive or stop working toward your goals. It means you stop fighting against your current reality and start using it as a launching pad for transformation. When you have no friends, become your own best friend. Learn to enjoy your own company, to trust your own counsel, to celebrate your own achievements. When you have no job, become the author of your own purpose. Use this time to explore what truly lights you up, what you would do even if no one paid you. When you have no love, become love itself. Practice loving yourself with the same dedication you would give to a partner. This is where true power lies. Not in controlling external circumstances, but in mastering your internal landscape. Not in having everything you want, but in wanting everything you have. Not in being everything to everyone, but in being true to yourself. Every great spiritual teacher spoke about the power of emptiness. Every profound philosophy points to the wisdom of solitude. Every transformative practice involves some form of withdrawal from the world. Why? Because it's in emptiness that we find fullness. It's in solitude that we find solidarity with all life. It's in apparent loss that we find our true wealth. You're not just learning to cope with rejection and solitude. You're learning to transform them into your greatest strengths. You're not just surviving your circumstances, you're using them as catalysts for profound personal evolution. This is what I mean when I say that your current situation is a gift. Not because it's easy or pleasant, but because it's powerful. It's stripping away everything that isn't truly you, leaving only what's essential. It's removing all external props, forcing you to develop internal strength. It's clearing away all distractions, allowing you to focus on what truly matters. As we move toward the close of our time together, I want to share something profound with you. The very fact that you're here listening to these words, feeling this pain of rejection and solitude, it's not a mistake. It's not a wrong turn on your path. It's the path itself. Every great journey of transformation begins with a period of isolation. Every powerful awakening starts with a stripping away. Every meaningful rebirth is preceded by a kind of death. You're not lost. You're in the chrysalis phase of your own metamorphosis. But here's what makes this journey uniquely powerful. You're not just transforming your circumstances. You're transforming your relationship with circumstances. You're not just learning to deal with rejection. You're learning to see rejection as protection. You're not just coping with solitude. You're discovering the infinite power that solitude contains. Think about the times in your life when you experienced the most profound growth. Wasn't it often during periods of great challenge? Wasn't it when everything familiar was stripped away? Wasn't it when you were forced to stand alone and find your own strength? The truth is, we don't grow in comfort. We don't discover our power in ease. We don't find our purpose in conformity. We grow through challenge. We discover our power in adversity. We find our purpose in the very experiences that seem to be taking us off course. Your current solitude is not a punishment. It's preparation. Your current rejection is not a setback. It's a setup. Your current emptiness is not an absence. It's an opening. But to receive these gifts, you must be willing to change your relationship with your present reality. Stop asking, why is this happening to me? Start asking, what is this developing in me? Stop wondering, when will this end? Start exploring, what can this teach me? Stop focusing on what you've lost and start discovering what you can only find in this sacred space of solitude. Because here's the truth that most people never discuss. The peace you're seeking isn't found in perfect circumstances. It's found in your perfect acceptance of whatever circumstances you're in. The love you're longing for isn't found in another person. It's found in your own heart. The purpose you're searching for isn't found in a job title. It's found in the quiet whispers of your soul that you can only hear in solitude. This doesn't mean you'll always be alone. It doesn't mean you'll never find meaningful work or deep love. It means that when these things come, and they will come, they'll find you whole, complete, and self-contained. They'll add to your life without defining it. They'll enhance your journey without determining its direction. The world needs people who have gone through this transformation, people who have faced rejection and found acceptance within themselves, people who have experienced solitude and discovered their own completeness, people who have lost everything external and found something eternal within. Because these people, these warriors of the spirit, they're the ones who can truly help others. They're the ones who can love without neediness, give without depletion, succeed without arrogance. They're the ones who can stand in their truth even when standing alone. You're not just healing your own pain. You're breaking a pattern that has haunted humanity for generations. The pattern of seeking outside ourselves what can only be found within. The pattern of running from solitude instead of embracing its gifts. The pattern of treating rejection as an ending instead of a beginning. Every time you choose to see your solitude as sacred instead of scary, you're helping to heal this collective wound. Every time you choose to trust the timing of your life instead of fighting against it, you're showing others a new way of being. Every time you choose to love yourself in your aloneness, you're teaching the world what true love looks like. This is your moment. Not just to survive your circumstances, but to be transformed by them. Not just to accept your solitude, but to alchemize it into gold. Not just to endure rejection, but to let it guide you to your highest good. The darkest night contains the promise of dawn. The empty canvas holds infinite potential. The silent pause between musical notes creates the symphony. Your current situation, no matter how challenging, contains within it the seeds of something magnificent. But you must be willing to trust the process, to embrace the uncertainty, to welcome the emptiness, to dance with the silence, to fall in love with your own company, to become so complete in yourself that others are drawn to your wholeness rather than asked to fill your emptiness. This is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of your greatest chapter. This is not a detour from your path. It's the path itself. This is not a punishment. It's a promotion. But only if you choose to see it that way, only if you're willing to use this time as the sacred opportunity it truly is. As you leave here today, I want you to carry this truth in your heart. You are not broken because you're alone. You are not failing because you're between jobs. You are not unlovable because you're single. You are exactly where you need to be, experiencing exactly what you need to experience to become exactly who you're meant to be. Your solitude is your strength. Your rejection is your protection. Your emptiness is your opportunity. And this moment, this precise moment that feels like an ending, is actually your most powerful beginning. Trust the timing of your life. Trust the wisdom of your path. Trust the power of your solitude. And most importantly, trust yourself, because within you lies everything you've been seeking outside yourself. Within you lies the peace that no circumstance can disturb. Within you lies the love that no rejection can diminish. Within you lies the purpose that no job can define. You are not lost. You are finding yourself. You are not alone. You're becoming whole. You are not rejected. You are being redirected to something far greater than anything you could have imagined. This is your time. This is your transformation. This is your triumph. And it all begins right here, right now, in this sacred space of solitude.